Good morning. I've got my happy shoes on today, so looking. Oh, thank you. Now standing. No, no, they don't make me go faster. They make me feel younger. So, uh, thank you so much for that report, Benny. That was really helpful. And also, I want to pick up on this will connect over time. But I actually want to talk a little bit about Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's where Calvin is located. That's where the conference session held. A news media outlet in Grand Rapids recently promoted their ranking in the happiest city list. So Wallet Hub runs an annual assessment. In 2026, they ranked 182 cities of who is happiest. Any ideas on where Grand Rapids, Michigan fell on the happiest setting? Fifth, seventh, third, 90th. So I'm trying to figure out, like, hey, we're 90th. That doesn't quite have the same ring as third, fifth, seventh. You know, we love to be happy, don't we? Like, that's what I long for. What if happy isn't the highest priority? What if living on mission is not all about my happy ranking, but it's advancing God's kingdom? I'm not saying that we need to purposefully be unhappy, but what if sometimes we get our order mixed up and we're chasing a mission of happiness rather than a mission of advancing God's kingdom? Living on mission is more about identifying the need God calls us to than pursuing what makes me the happiest. And that can be deceptive also. We all have gifts, skills, and talents in the sense of, oh, if I can just find my sweet spot. What if my sweet spot isn't the blessing to the community that I'm in? What if my sweet spot of what's easiest for me is not what God is calling to be fulfilled in the community that I'm in? Our calling, our shared mission sometimes leads us to join God in his work in which happiness might not be the first priority. So let's think about this some more by looking at Numbers. The book of Numbers. Who doesn't love going to the book of Numbers? I don't know if you noticed, but the book of Numbers has a lot of numbers. All right? So we're going to frame out the sermon there so we know what's coming. But yet, Numbers has a story behind a story. That Numbers share a story. So in Numbers chapter 10, I want to frame out the context for us. First of all, there's a preposition change that takes place in Numbers. No amen on a prepositional change. I'm a little disappointed. I thought there'd be a little more enthusiasm at this point. Oh, do I need to go back to my shoes? The story has been deliverance from Egypt. So God's call, God's work, God's mission is deliverance from slavery, deliverance from bondage, deliverance from Egypt. And we get to Numbers chapter 10, and the preposition changes no longer from, but now to the promised land. They are going from, and now they're going to what God's preferred future is for them. This is a significant shift to catch and to also see how God is intricately central to what's taking place. just to frame the timing on this also. So we're picking up on the nation. It's been about 14 months since they left Egypt. They wandered around for a while. They got to Sinai. They've been here for 11 months. Camping together for 11 months. I don't like camping one night personally. So they've been camping for 11 months. And I want to think a little bit about what this is like, what this framework is like. Think about a family meal. You gather for Thanksgiving. How many people gather around the table sometimes for your family meal? 9, 11, 27. Think an extended family size. You've got that. And then let's think about a little bit of a broader group of Rock County. What's the population of Rock County? Yeah, right around there. Maybe up to 160,000. Did you know that the Rock River is 299 miles long? And it was originally called the Sinisippi River? Sinisippi. Does that strike anybody as a little bit strange? Rocky River? There, make sure you get that in your notes today. So Rock County, 163,000. Population of Dane and Milwaukee counties combined. 2 million, yeah. Milwaukee County keeps losing people, but let's so in the 1.5 to 2 million. Now picture all of Milwaukee and Dane County camped at the base of Mount Sinai. Numbers tells us it's 600,000 fighting men. I'm a literal person, so I'm taking their numbers. 600,000 fighting men. Let's extrapolate. It could be 2 million people camping. That's a lot of people. Then you have the tribes split up. So they're camping together. The tabernacle is in the middle. The Levites are around that. And then there's 12 tribes, 3, 3, 3, 3. You got Rock County there. And then there are family groups. Each family is situated and together. They have their banners flying. I don't know what a family banner looks like. So I don't know, do you have a family banner that you fly at Thanksgiving or anything? They have the family banners flying. Sometimes I think we lose a sense of what joining God's mission can feel like. I want to picture that you have in your memory 14 months ago we left bondage. We've now been stuck in one spot for 11 months. Now, granted, God has revealed himself to Moses. The 10 Commandments have been given. They've built a tabernacle. Things have happened, but there's got to be a restlessness. And then God's presence moves. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "The people of Israel shall camp each day by his own standard, with the banners of their fathers' houses. They shall camp facing the tent of meeting on every side." They've been camping that way for 11 months. And then in chapter 10, we pick up that they start to move. The cloud lifted from over the tabernacle of the testimony, and the people of Israel set out by stages from the wilderness of Sinai. They are finally moving from and to. God's presence has indicated that it's time to move. This isn't a work of people. This is God clearly indicating. And I don't want to miss that in terms of mission. Sometimes we can make mission statements kind of sound like it's this human-driven sort of thing. It is truly sensing, how is God moving among us and calling us? With that framework, there's another important aspect that is brought out, and that is the difference between tradition and traditionalism. Nobody wants to be an ism, right? There's not many good isms out there. So the difference between tradition and traditionalism. I'm going to share a story with you that I think helps bring this out. Vern grew up in Massachusetts. He's on the wrong side of the border from me. And undoubtedly, he probably celebrated similar family get-togethers as I did. Like around Groundhog's Day, all your second cousins come together to celebrate. Is this not normal in the Midwest? So everybody comes together to celebrate. And there's different ways this story has been told. But a 10-year-old boy was at a gathering like this, and he's observing his father in the kitchen cutting a pot roast, trimming the ends off to put it in a pan. And the 10-year-old boy says, why are you trimming the ends off the pot roast? Like a 10-year-old boy would ask. And his father's looking for a way to get the kid out of the kitchen. And he says, your grandmother's in the living room. Talk to her. She's the one who taught me. So he goes out and asks his grandmother. He says, why did you teach Dad to trim the ends off a pot roast? I don't understand. And she said, it just tastes better. And that's how my mother taught me. And the boy was satisfied. He had an iPhone. He found something else to do. And so life went on. But a few days later, the grandmother was looking through a diary of her mom. And it was the first year of marriage. And it talked about how she had purchased a roasting pan, but that things were tight financially. And they had to purchase a small one. So she had to cut the ends off the pot roast to fit it in the pan. And she looked forward to the day of having enough money to buy a pot roast pan where they didn't have to waste the meat. Tradition is cooking the meat. It's healthy, right? There are good things about cooking meat. Traditionalism is mindlessly doing something and you have no idea why. So in that pot roast story, the story lost the element of what can change and what needs to stay the same. We get a picture of that in this passage. In Numbers chapter 2, there's a certain order that the tribes leave. They go in a certain order, file out, and the tabernacle, the holy things go after the second wave. By the time we get to Numbers 10, be on the edge of your seat for this, there's a Levitical innovation. The tabernacle leaves after wave 1, and everything else leaves after wave 2. Chapter 10, verse 21, we read that is because the tabernacle can get set up and the holy things can be safely put somewhere. If I was in your seat at this point, I would be thinking, Greene, please, is this really that significant? I think it is. They held on to tradition. They held on to an order that mattered, but yet they saw how God was at work in a way to reorganize how they did that work. There was a shift underway, and that is going to be kind of a preset to what happens between Moses and Hobab. So let's get into Moses and Hobab with the understanding that mission builds on tradition, yet a missional community seeks out new opportunities to share in that mission together. I'm going to throw out there that for this church, potentially, with the launch of a pastoral ministry in a few weeks, that this is a season of building on tradition, but also seeing opportunities for shared mission in an exciting way. So let's take a look at the story of Moses and Hobab. Numbers chapter 10, verses 29 through 36. And again, this is as they're setting out to head to the promised land. And Moses said to Hobab, the son of Reuel, the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, "We are setting out for the place of which the Lord said, 'I will give it to you.' Come with us, and we will do good to you, for the Lord has promised good to Israel." But he said to him, "I will not go. I will depart to my own land and to my kindred." And he said, "Please do not leave us, for you know where we should camp in the wilderness, and you will serve as eyes for us. And if you do go with us, whatever good the Lord will do to us, the same will we do to you." So they set out from the mount of the Lord 3 days' journey, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord went before them 3 days' journey to seek out a resting place for them. And the cloud of the Lord was over them by day whenever they set out from the camp. Whenever the ark set out, Moses said, "Arise, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered, and let those who hate you flee before you." And when it rested, he said, "Return, O Lord, to the 10,000 thousands of Israel." Now, again, as we talk about the interaction between Moses and Hobab, I don't want to miss that God is the center of this story. All the movement is happening because God's presence is moving. So I really don't want to miss the centrality of God here. And yet there is a really interesting innovation that takes place. So back in Exodus chapter 18, we read about, there's a story of Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, saying, you shouldn't try to do everything yourself. You should bring other people in and work together on administrating things. So now we see Moses still applying that lesson and inviting his brother-in-law to join him in mission. He's inviting shared mission. So Moses invites Hobab. What did Hobab say? Yeah. If we render the Hebrew carefully in context, he said, "Nope." So that was round one. Round two, Moses tries again. What's his response? We don't know. Let's think about the second request. The first request was kind of so that you can enjoy the blessing. Hobab, join us and you'll be happy. The second blessing was so you can be our eyes. God had clearly given Moses a destination. It's not like Moses had questions about where they were going. It was how that would happen and realizing that to share this mission was essential. Doing this together mattered, and so he invites Hobab to be our eyes, which is something that Moses did not possess, to know where to camp, to know the specifics, the practicalities of what to take place, that together they would be so much better than individually. Shared participation on mission. I want to go back to that happiness idea. So often when we think about calling, it circles around, will I be happy? I remember one of the lectures in seminary, I learned that if I wasn't 70% happy, it was an indication that I'm not living within God's will. And at the time, I was like, oh, well, that's kind of neat. I like that. I'd prefer it more like 90%, but I'll take 70%. But what if that's not the right standard? What if the standard is simply, am I joining God in his work? Am I fulfilling the need of the community that God has called me to be a part of? Now I'm biased. I don't like camping. So I can't help but think, what if Hobab didn't like camping? What if he said, no, I've had enough of this camping business. I'm going to go home. And yet his calling, his service to the community was to do what was actually stretching for him. because that is what this community needed. We're not told here if Hobab went. In Judges chapter 1, verse 16, we're told that the Kenites are in the promised land. So that is the people group that Hobab would have been a part of. Judges chapter 4, verse 11, we're told that Hobab's descendants were in the promised land. Isn't that interesting? So most likely Hobab probably went if his descendants are in the promised land. And then by the time we get to verses 17 through 22, we learn that one of Hobab's descendants is integrally involved in delivering the nation of Israel. Jael, for those of us who enjoyed some pretty aggressive stories, delivers in a very amazing way the nation of Israel. Generations after Hobab was invited to please help us be our eyes, there is a long arc of deliverance that takes place because of faithfulness in the present. An interesting thing, we're not told of the impact Hobab had. It might have been ho-hum. It wasn't noteworthy enough to make it. But generations out, it had a huge impact. I wonder how often my faithfulness in the present, which does not look like what I envisioned it would look, God is using for a longer arc. That maybe my happy about how much is taking place in the present isn't the right measure, but trusting God for the longer arc. I think it's incredibly noteworthy of the long arc impact that happens here. Also want to note, I'm presenting mission as this great thing to participate in because it is. It's God's work that's invited. It's also messy. Chapter 10 is an amazing picture of things coming together, people on the move. We get to chapter 11, and it's rebellion. We go from God's presence miraculously in amazing ways, leading people, and then there's rebellion in chapter 11, in part because people don't respect their own contribution to the work. They blame others for what's not happening and lose sight of the value of their contribution, lose sight of what shared mission is all about. The time of Sinai was a time of setting out on mission. As a church, there are times for setting out on mission. And this is a time of reconsidering, what does that mission look like? And I think a key that we're reminded of in this passage is the shared participation in the mission. It's not a person, it's not three people, it is the congregation joining and sharing in mission. It's also more than using my personal skills the way that I would prefer, but looking for the needs that God is calling those needs to be used. As a church family, as I read in the bulletin and in different things, I'm reminded that we connect people to Jesus and equip them to be his disciples. I participate, you participate, but together is how God really moves us forward. As a family of Seventh-day Baptist churches, we equip our churches to actively advance God's kingdom. Here in Milton, Bay Area, California, Verona, New York, West Palm Beach, Florida, a number of different places in which there is impact in the community, but there are also things that we do together. And one of those I didn't want to let you go without a running story because there'd be great disappointment. So uh, I ran my first 50K this year, which is great. It's a marathon with 5 more miles. It's better value if you're money. Uh, one drawback on this race, I didn't really study it out too close. I knew it was a trail race, so I was excited about that. It turned out it was a loop. So I ran 16 miles around, or no, not 16 miles. It was 31 miles. It was 16 times round, 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 round. It was along the Mississippi River, but even that got boring after a little while. What I'm mentioning this for is I've never been in a race in which people cheered each other on so much. So this was part of a race series. There were some people who'd been racing days in a row, and I was joining in this leg, and they cheered me on as if I'd been with them all summer. I can't help but think, how are we at cheering one another on and doing God's mission? How often is our first response to critique rather than to cheer on in faithful living? And I really struck by the exchange between Moses and Hobab, in which Moses sees the giftings that Hobab has and reaches out to him. I hope that we go out of our way to encourage each other in faithful living and joining God in this shared mission. I also think that's part of our role as a conference of churches, is to cheer each other on. The impact report's been mentioned a few times. It has stories about different new churches that are coming together and forming, and that is something that we encourage and support together as churches. That's something that this group participates in. Other things that we participate in together is the training of leaders. That includes emerging leaders. Coming up in October, there'll be another group that comes together that will join us for worship. That's something that's exciting that's taking place. Of this summer, there's a mission work for young adults, and there were 15 sent out by Seventh-day Baptists this summer to 7 different locations. And then coming this fall, we'll have another group coming together that's kind of like the introduction to different opportunities to serve and to grow. And 7 years ago, there were about 4 people engaged in this sort of activity, and now there's over 40. There are exciting things taking place, but it requires us to encourage one another, both on a church-to-church level, but also here. I have one more statistic for you. It was on the book of Numbers. I can use statistics, right? All right. Let me get the right. All right, U.S. News and World Report ranked cities in the United States on the best place to live. In Wisconsin, where did Janesville rank? What number of the cities in Wisconsin? We've got to vote for number 1. You got outvoted. Yeah, there's a variety. 4th. Oh, you know, this reminds me. I forgot something on the happiest cities. Any guess on where Madison fell on happiest cities? 12th. Milwaukee, out of 182, number 153. So now, looking at best places to live. Janesville, number 4 in Wisconsin, ranked 180th in the country. I don't want to be the sour grapes guy that says let's see how bad we can live or how unhappy we can live. But I do think far too much of my life is how can I have the easiest? How can I be the most comfortable without a cross? And when I think about shared mission, when I think about Moses and Hobab and that exchange that took place, there is a beauty of inviting one another to use our skills, talents, and abilities, not just to get to a sweet spot, but to bless the community that we're a part of. My family and I have lived here for 8 years now. Well, some of my family, the rest of them keep leaving. I don't know what happens. I got old. We've been here 8 years. This is an amazing, talented, skilled group of people. How is God calling you to be his eyes in this season? This is an exciting season. I shared at conference session, I'm excited about my pastor Nick. That didn't come out right. I am thrilled about the upcoming season of what's bound to be. But how is God calling me to be eyes? How is God calling each one of us to join in this shared mission in this specific season as a church, as a conference of churches, to glorify God's name and to bring people to a saving relationship with Jesus Christ? We stand at the cusp of an exciting time. I hope that we join it together. Let's pray. Father, thank you for bringing us together today. And Lord, thank you for knitting us together as a community, both here in Milton and across the United States and Canada. Lord, thank you for the ways that you call us and invite us into your mission. Not just an organization, not just into some sort of connection, but Lord, a shared work of disciple making. Guide us in that. May we encourage one another well and be faithful in your call on our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.